November 2017, the Great Hall of the People in Beijing was illuminated for a massive state banquet. The Chinese government had rolled out an extravagant, top-tier welcome ceremony for the visiting American president. But inside the dining room, the female serving staff behaved strangely. True banquet servers hold their hands relaxed near the stomach. These women kept their hands tightly folded at the high chest, a tactical high-ready position used in close-quarters combat. Their eyes completely ignored the tables, rapidly scanning the American delegation instead. The United States Secret Service immediately recognized the tactic. When it was time to serve the president a drink, a large American agent physically stepped in, boxed out the Chinese staff, and handed the president his glass directly. The protection detail understood the reality of the room. Beneath the lavish food and polite smiles, they were operating in actively hostile territory. This extreme caution continued right up to the end of the trip. On the tarmac at Beijing Airport, the entire U.S. delegation stopped before boarding their planes. From senior officials to reporters, everyone ripped off their VIP lanyards, pulled off their memorial pins, and dumped them into massive plastic bins guarded by the Secret Service. This diagram reveals exactly what the agents were afraid of. Those commemorative badges conceal passive, microscopic RFID bugs stitched right into the fabric and paper. The risk extends to digital gifts as well. Every thumb drive and power bank handed out by the host country is assumed to carry zero-day Trojan malware. If a staffer plugs one of these into a laptop on Air Force One, the infection could spread to the plane's internal network. The protocol is absolute. Even the official encrypted cell phones and laptops issued by the White House specifically for this trip are confiscated on the tarmac. Once they reach U.S. soil, they are thrown directly into a commercial incinerator. Security protocols used to rely on mutual trust. We have to look back at one specific disaster to understand why Western powers now treat every single aspect of Chinese state hospitality as a weaponized trap. In January 2008, British Prime Minister Gordon Brown landed in China. He brought a massive delegation of over 100 people, including top cabinet officials, university chancellors, and the CEOs of the UK's biggest banks. The UK economy was heavily overleveraged and teetering on the edge of the looming global financial crisis. Brown urgently needed an influx of cash from China's $200 billion sovereign wealth fund to keep the British market stable. By the second night of the trip, the delegation was in Shanghai. They had successfully signed several major trade agreements. The pressure finally lifted, and the team's operational security completely evaporated. A dozen senior policy advisors from 10 Downing Street decided to celebrate. Without notifying their security detail, they changed into casual clothes, slipped out of the hotel, and took a taxi to a popular expat bar across the city. Exhaustion and sudden relief created a massive vulnerability. The British advisors thought they were anonymous tourists grabbing a drink, perfectly setting up a targeted intelligence strike. Inside the crowded, noisy bar, a young local woman stepped onto the dance floor. She bypassed dozens of other foreigners and made a direct line for one specific, middle-aged senior policy advisor. She convinced him to leave the bar and head to a different hotel. Once in the room, she poured him a drink. He drank it, and the poison hit his system instantly. He collapsed on the bed, completely unconscious. When he finally woke up in the middle of the night, the woman was gone. He checked the nightstand. His wallet, cash, and luxury watch were completely untouched. The only missing item was his government-issued BlackBerry smartphone. This network map shows why that specific phone was invaluable. In 2008, a senior advisor's BlackBerry was the single gateway to the 10 Downing Street intranet. It provided a direct path to private diplomatic cables and the unlisted contact numbers of major world leaders. Consider the precision required for this encounter. Out of a delegation of 100 people roaming a city of 20 million, a foreign operative isolated the one individual with the specific security clearance needed to compromise the British government's internal network. A strike of that accuracy requires immense preparation. Chinese intelligence had to be wiretapping, tracking, and profiling the British aides long before they ever decided to leave their hotel rooms. The theft of that BlackBerry forced a total overhaul of diplomatic security. The major Western intelligence agencies realized that the old assumption that visiting leaders were immune from espionage in China no longer applied. When the American president visited Beijing the very next year, the Secret Service refused to trust the walls of his suite. They brought highly specialized gear directly into the room and erected a massive, opaque tent right next to his bed. Look at the mechanics of this sensitive, compartmented information facility. The tent is woven with heavy metal shielding that entirely blocks cellular and radio signals. Machines on the perimeter blast high-decibel white noise to physically disrupt remote laser audio eavesdropping devices. By the year 2018, the threat of optical surveillance had escalated even further. During her state visit, the British Prime Minister and her senior staff were explicitly briefed to never undress in the open. They had to change their clothes entirely under their bedsheets to avoid high-definition microcameras hidden inside the hotel's smoke detectors and mirrors. Hiding under blankets and reading documents inside pop-up tents look utterly absurd. Yet, in an environment completely wired to extract your data, these are mandatory survival tactics. The television broadcasts of these state visits project total harmony. Viewers see polite handshakes, synchronized military bands, and carefully arranged flags. Just inches out of frame, intelligence officers from both nations are actively struggling for technical control. Every angle is covered. The waitstaff monitor behavior to build psychological profiles, while complementary electronics wait patiently to deploy malware into secure aviation systems. Visiting diplomats now operate under a single, unwavering doctrine. The physical room is bugged, the parting gift is a virus, and the gracious host is actively trying to break into your network. Lavish state hospitality serves a very specific function. Red carpets and banquets act as the highly choreographed opening maneuvers of a ruthless espionage operation.